This show is produced by the Harwood Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris, and we love making this show available to you free of charge. If you'd like to help us keep it that way, make a contribution to our Karma Jar or become a show sponsor. To learn more, visit our website. Today I've made this delicious fresh strawberry cheesecake. I recently got an email from a viewer saying that their mom was having a birthday. Could I show how to make a strawberry cheesecake? This one is really easy to put together. It's got a fresh graham cracker crust, a delicious cheesecake filling, and this wonderful fresh strawberry glaze on top. We're going to begin by making our graham cracker crust. Now, you may be tempted to buy just pre-crushed graham crackers at the store. Sometimes that's available in a box. But I have to tell you, sometimes they don't really taste like anything. So if you can, get actual graham crackers and crush them yourself. So what I do is I get a large zip bag and I put in some crackers. And then I seal this, but I leave the last little bit open so that the air can escape. And then I take my rolling pin and I kind of mash this out. And if you have kids, this is a great job for them. And then I roll them because I do want to make sure that all of those crackers are totally crushed. And then I have my 1.5 cup measuring cup, and I'm going to start filling that up. Now with that size cracker, it took about 10 graham crackers to get a 1.5 cups. And then in a small bowl, I'm going to put the crumbs in, stir in 1/3 cup of sugar, and I do want to take a moment just to mix the sugar in with those crumbs. And now I've melted 1/3 cup of butter. I'm going to pour that in and stir that around. And what's going to happen is these crumbs are going to soak up the butter and it's going to start to look like wet sand. Now at this point you want to make sure that all the crumbs get covered with the butter because it's that butter that's going to work like the glue to kind of hold them all together. You want to keep mixing until you see no pockets of the dry crumbs. Now we're going to get our springform pan out. Now this is about a 7.5 inch springform pan. You can go up to about 8 inches. And the way this works is there's a bottom and then there's this ring with a lock on it. And when you put this down, it pretty much seals the bottom to the sides. It's nice and heavy, and it allows us to build the crust up the sides. If you were just to put it in a regular pie dish, those are not as deep, and it wouldn't leave room for our strawberry filling that we really want. So that's why a springform pan works great. Now there are many sizes of springform pans. They even go up to 9, 10, 12 inches, but that makes a huge cheesecake. I just want sort of a medium-sized cheesecake. So I do want to put a little bit of baking spray in the bottom and on the sides. And now I'm going to take and pour my crumbs into the pan. I'm going to get one of my little custard cups to help me press down, and I'm going to press first the bottom in because I want a nice level bottom of crumbs, and then I'm going to move it over into the side and I'm going to push those crumbs up the side of my pan. Now what we're looking for is a nice even layer of crumbs. We don't want the bottom to be really thick and then the sides to be really thin. Now the area that tends to get the thickest is where the side meets the bottom in that sort of L-shaped space. So you really have to get in there. Sometimes I even go in with my thumb and kind of press that in so that gets nice and even. Now it's not going to come, the crumbs are not going to come all the way to the top of the pan. We don't need it to do that. They'll come up about an inch, inch and a half or so, and that will be just right. Now before we bake this in the oven, I want to pop it in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes. I want that butter to get cold again, and that's really going to help this crust set really nicely. So pop this in the fridge for about 20 minutes. Now the crust is nice and firm, and I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to put the pan on a rimmed baking sheet. It makes it much easier to get in and out of the oven. And I want to bake this for about 4 to 5 minutes until I can start to smell the crust in the kitchen. And after 5 minutes, I'm going to pull this out and set it on a rack and just let it cool while I get my filling ready. Now to make the filling, I'm using my standing mixer with the whisk attachment, but you could certainly use a hand mixer if you'd like. And for the cream cheese, I'm using Philadelphia cream cheese, and this is the full fat cream cheese. You can't go light on this one because the consistency will be a little bit too runny, and we don't want that. Now I have 1.5 packages, which is 12 ounces, and I'm going to cut the cream cheese into some cubes and put that into my mixer. I'm going to start this creaming on a medium speed. Then I'm going to sprinkle in 3/4 cup of sugar, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/2 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. Now once I get all the ingredients in, I am going to have to stop and scrape down the beater, make sure that the cream cheese all gets in there. And because I'm not using my blade with the rubber sides, I am going to have to scrape the sides of the bowl, because with the whisk attachment, things are going to want to fling to the side. So just keep it on a medium speed and just keep checking until everything is nicely mixed. Now that's looking really good. If there's a few little lumps, don't worry about it. That cream cheese will totally melt in the oven. Now I'm going to take the cheesecake mixture, I'm going to pour that into my shell. And I do want to take my spatula and kind of spread that into an even layer. And I'm going to let this bake at 350 degrees for about 40 minutes. Now while the cheesecake is baking, just a reminder to check out the great 99-cent videos I have at Cindy's Cooking School. You'll learn how to make these beautiful cream puff swans, and right now a basic cake decorating lesson, which is really fun to do. And then of course there's Cindy's Kitchen Cookbook, which is what I use. It's got all my recipes from the podcast plus quite a few from my own personal collection. And this is a wonderful go-to thing. You can search by ingredient, you can search by dish, and you have links not only to the recipes but to the videos as well. So for all that, just go to our website. And here comes our cheesecake. It's got a nice golden brown on the top, and when you jiggle it, it jiggles just a little bit. It looks great. Now I'm going to let this sit here and cool for a few minutes. Now I'm bringing the cheesecake over here because I'm going to make a collar to go around this, and I want to show you how I do that. I've cut some strips of parchment. These are about 2.5 inches wide, and I'm going to take them and I'm just going to slip them right around the edge of the cheesecake. And then I have a second strip, and I'm just going to tuck it behind that one and wrap it around. Now many times you'll see professional pastry chefs making parchment collars for things because they want a little bit more support for whatever their topping is, and in this case it's going to be that strawberry glaze. So I'm going to leave this like this and then just set this to the side while we get our strawberries ready. Now I have a whole bunch of strawberries that I've washed, but I need to sort through them first, and let me show you what I mean. In a box of strawberries, you're going to have sort of this medium-sized berry, and then you're also going to have these giant berries. Now for this cheesecake, I like to use the big ones to slice up and crush for the glaze, but I like these medium-sized ones to place on the cake. So I'm going to start by sorting out the medium-sized ones from the big ones. And then as I sort through, I turn the other ones upside down because that's the way I'm going to place them on the cheesecake. And this way you can see if one is really, really big, I'll take that out and put it in that bowl. So here on my plate, these strawberries are all about the same size. I'm going to set those aside and leave them whole. And now with my paring knife, I'm going to take out the stems of these berries. And then I'm going to take them and I'm just going to slice them up very roughly. And then with my potato masher, I'm going to mash these down. And I'm going to measure out 1 cup of this fruit, and I really want to pack that into my measuring cup. And then with my paring knife, I'm going to take and I'm just going to slice the bottom off of each of the berries because I want to take the stem off, but I do want them to be nice and flat. Normally I would core out the stem, but in this case I want them to sit nice and flat on that cheesecake. Now we make the glaze in a saucepan, so I'm going to take and put in my crushed strawberries, 2/3 of a cup of water, a cup of sugar, and 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And I'm going to use my whisk and stir all of that together. And then I'm going to take this over to the stove, and over a medium-high heat I'm going to bring it to boil. Now while I'm waiting for that mixture to come to boil, I'm going to take and place my strawberries on top of the cheesecake. Just place them as close as you can. Looks great. Now as the mixture starts to come to boil, you can see how this is very cloudy looking. And we're starting to get some steam, which means it's going to start boiling in a minute. But we want to keep stirring it because we need that cornstarch. That's what's clouding the mixture. We need it to start cooking, and that's what's going to make this nice and clear. Now there it's starting to boil, so I'm going to put the timer on for 1 minute, and I'm going to keep stirring that. Now after 1 minute, this is nice and cooked. I want you to look at your mixture and see if that's red enough for you. Now I like mine just a little bit redder, so I'm going to put 1 drop, that's all, of food coloring in. And I'm going to stir that, and that just gives it just a little bit brighter red color. And now I'm going to pour that glaze right over the top of the berries and on top of that cheesecake. Take my spatula, just kind of move that around, and you can see the tops of the berries are poking up. Now this glaze is still very hot, and so is the cheesecake. So I'm going to let this sit out on the counter for about another 30 minutes. Let it cool down to about room temperature, and then this will go into the refrigerator for at least 3 or 4 hours to chill down. Now it's been quite a few hours that the cheesecake has been in the refrigerator, and when it's totally chilled, that strawberry glaze will be very, very solid and set up, and then the rest of the cheesecake will be nice and cold. So now it's time to take our ring off. So I'm going to unlatch it here, and what happens is it kind of expands, and then I can lift that off. And then I'll unwrap the collar. And look at that, strawberry sets up perfectly, and it sits right nice on top of the cheesecake. Now sometimes on the cheesecake forms there's no edge like this. If that's the case, you may want to take and put it on a platter. If you do, put a little napkin under it, that way it won't slide around on you. But since mine does have this ridge and it wouldn't look that great sitting on a platter, I would just serve it here in the kitchen. Just take my large knife. Now we can see the great crust. Here's the cheesecake and that delicious strawberry glaze right on top. And as I taste this, you can really taste the fresh graham cracker crust, which I like. The cheesecake part is super smooth, and that strawberry is so fresh tasting. Now, if you'd like to try this delicious strawberry cheesecake at home, just go to our website, go to the Sweet World show notes, and I'll have the recipe there for you. Don't forget to join us on Facebook, and as always, if you have any ideas or questions for me, please send me an email. I'll see you next time.